Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the WTF1 podcast. And what a week we have in store in terms of content. Finally, we've got some sort of F1 news, but it is that Sebastian Vettel is leaving Ferrari at the end of 2020, something that I don't really see coming as quickly as this. Anyway, there's obviously speculation. And of course, alongside me, which I think is that way if I'm looking correctly, Tommy, you're not in my room. I wish you were. That's a weird way of saying that. I wish that we could see each other. But Tommy, how are you?
I'm good. Very glad that we've got some proper Formula One news to dive into because it's a good one, isn't it?
It's a good one. So Vettel leaving Ferrari at the end of 2020, something, as I say, I didn't really see coming as quickly as it did. Was it something that shocked you, Tommy?
This soon, definitely. The fact that it's been announced very early, halfway through a season that hasn't even started yet, is a big shock. Maybe if it happened at the end of the year, maybe I'd have seen it coming, but this early, very strange.
Now, obviously, the main talking point from this is who is going to replace Sebastian Vettel at Ferrari. There's quite a few, I guess, nominees for this prestigious award of being a Ferrari driver. There's quite a few that people will argue, and there's some that maybe are a little bit more far-fetched. But we've compiled a list, haven't we, Tommy, to run through, including some fan questions.
We have a list of some sensible, some maybe that definitely get spoken about a lot. We've gone for the most popular ones that people have spoken to us about the most, because we did have constant... We could go on and do a 6-hour podcast where people are suggesting every single Formula One driver, but these are the main candidates.
Yeah, Jacques Villeneuve, for example,
Why not?
He's been showing his pace on an Xbox controller. Why not? He could come back to F1.
Exactly.
Right, so the first one is at iNico110, or 10,010 if you want to be normal. Daniel Ricciardo, he speaks Italian. He is in Renault. He was contacted before by Ferrari for replacing Raikkonen. He is a great driver. Sainz and Norris are a great pair at McLaren, so I don't see him leaving the team. That's the kind of overall thoughts of Nico, but mainly around Daniel Ricciardo and the fact that he would fit quite nicely into the Ferrari team. We've also got at Spicy Chicken 427 says, I think Ricciardo, McLaren will keep Sainz, and considering they'll get Mercedes engines next year, it's a big incentive to stay. My honest opinion, I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. So clearly it's this is my thoughts, but also I could be wrong, which is, I think, everybody in silly season when it kicks off. At Absol_S, Daniel Ricciardo, he's always said he has ties to them, and you can tell he doesn't really want to be at Renault. Now, Daniel Ricciardo is, from a personality side of things, I can't see him fitting in at all, for me, just personally, when I see it. Obviously, from a competitor side of things, I think Daniel Ricciardo's probably... It's difficult. He doesn't want to be a number 2. He left Red Bull because of, rumoured about Verstappen and the fact he didn't want to take him on. Does Ricciardo want to go to Ferrari, where he almost is in that exact same position? It's a weird one.
Are you reading my notes? Because we have just gone, get out my head.
Really?
My notes were exactly the same thing. I'd love to see Ricciardo there. Definitely doesn't deserve to be in the midfield. He deserves to be in a top car. However, he left because of Verstappen, let's be honest, and he felt that they were favouring him. But now, why would he go to Ferrari and have exactly the same situation? Because Leclerc is now the golden boy of Ferrari, like Max is the golden boy of Red Bull. And he could go there, which would be obviously great for his career because he could win races again. But he could end up in exactly the same situation.
I guess if he does go to Ferrari, it probably also suggests that he regrets his move to Renault because, as you say, it's a similar transition over to... He can't expect to be the number 1 driver going to Ferrari, as he was, as you say, at Red Bull. So it's either that, or is it the fact that there's the allure of Ferrari still, which people argue now that there isn't the same allure of Ferrari as there was back in the day.
Yeah, and just look at Sebastian Vettel. That was his dream to go there, and it's not worked out the way he envisioned it, being, a 4-time world champion when he moved only 1 year at Red Bull and thought he could jump ship and win some titles at Ferrari, and it's not gone the way he expected. So, yeah, I agree. It's not... Maybe that people put more emphasis on who's going to win rather than this is a historic team that would be great to drive for.
Yeah, for me personally, I don't know. It really depends of how much of a shock this is to Ferrari's system and whether or not they've really planned for this going into 2021. But I'm sure they'll have more than enough options, as we will go through in this podcast. So I guess Danny Rick, for me, how likely out of 10? Let's give it a rating. So 1 or 0 is not a chance. 10 is, I'm pretty sure he is absolutely going. So for me, I think it's probably a 6. What would you say?
I'd go for 7.
7?
Yeah.
All right.
I could see it happening,
6.
but I think there'll always be the thing in the back of my mind that the big downfall for me is the fact that Leclerc, they wouldn't want someone to challenge Leclerc as much.
Fair. All right. Let's move on to Carlos Sainz. Another man that is very much in the front row seats for potentially taking this seat. At Benji de Rouge. Sainz, great driver, but not a number 1 driver for a top team. Consistent, though not champion material. Street fighter, so should be able to drag in the points needed and keep others behind. Great second for Leclerc. Oh, that's a spicy comment about not being a number 1 driver for a top team. I think that for me, Sainz is... originally at Toro Rosso when he was against Verstappen and whatnot, he didn't really show too much potential because obviously he didn't get the Red Bull seat. But I think, especially last year at McLaren, he's really come into his own. He's beaten Lando over the course of a season, and for me, people forget he's only like 24. He's been in the sport since he was 18, I think it was, or 19. He's a veteran, but he's still young, and I feel like he's developing so much more rapidly now, especially last year, as I say, that he could definitely be a number 1 driver, I think.
It's mad, isn't it, that these drivers that we now call veterans before they're even 30 years old, or even 25.
He's like 24.
Yeah, exactly. So Carlos Sainz, it's a bit of a strange comment, that one. It's maybe a little bit more savage than I'd agree with. However, I think for me, Carlos Sainz makes the most sense because he seems like he's very, very quick and proved that in the McLaren that he's an extremely capable driver and really shown everyone what we all hoped and expected of him. But for me, Sainz, he's the kind of driver that I feel would not be a number 2 like Bottas to Leclerc, but he would be a bit more inclined to not cause as many fireworks as Ricciardo and maybe other drivers that they put in. And for me, Sainz is the kind of driver I could see saying, yeah, okay, if they asked him to move out of the way within reason, I think he would be a lot more, not quite as extreme and like an Alonso, if you like, where they would cause chaos in the team.
Yeah, I think I disagree slightly. I think that he will probably see, if he does get this opportunity, I think he'll see it more as almost like how Leclerc saw it last year when he came to Ferrari, where the opportunity is amazing. He'll agree to everything and go, fine, all right, if Vettel wants to come by, I'll let him by. Obviously, that didn't particularly work out throughout some of the races in the season, and he very much challenged those decisions, Singapore being a great example. But for me, I think that Sainz will see it as a great opportunity, but I don't think he'll be a Bottas. I don't think he will take, especially if he's ahead of Leclerc in a few races in succession, I think that he'll challenge just as much as Leclerc did last year. So for me, I could see fireworks kicking off for that because they're both young, 24 and what's Leclerc, 22, 21,
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so they're both really young, which for me, again, doesn't make me think that Ferrari would go for that because that's such a young driver pairing and it's reliant on so much on such little experience in F1 in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know. For me, out of 10, if we're going to give it an out of 10, I think Carlos Sainz. 5. I think a 5.
Wow.
I can't see it.
Really?
I can't see Carlos Sainz going there. I think it's too young of a driver lineup for Ferrari to take the risk.
I've gone for 9. I think
9.
He's my most likely. I really do think that he fits the bill perfectly. And
you think he fits the bill of a Ferrari ethos that them going for one young driver is bit bold enough for them? You think they'll go for 2?
Well, the thing is, he's young, but he is experienced, and he's not exactly I mean, we'll go into this, that who are really top drivers that have been in for ages, and Carlos Sainz is not exactly that much. He's not been in the sport that much longer than Ricciardo, not an extreme amount. If they really need experience and they'd need like a Vettel who's going. So
Danny Rick's been around for quite a few years, hasn't he not?
He has, but I wouldn't completely discount the fact that Sainz and Leclerc don't seem too much of an outrageous lineup at Ferrari for me. I do get where you're coming from, saying that it's against Ferrari's plan that they normally go for experience, but I could see Sainz being there. I'm
going to change it. Ricciardo to a 7 and Carlos to a 5, I think.
Okay.
I think Ricciardo's a more sensible shout for Ferrari. I don't know. It depends what they're going to go for. If they're going to go just completely balls to the wall and, want to throw complete caution to the wind, then they might go for Sainz. But I don't know. I feel like Sainz has more. It's difficult because then I was about to say Sainz has more ambition to want to win and stuff like that. Ricciardo already has that taste, but then Ricciardo may see it as he's only got a certain amount of time left and he needs to win a world championship. So I can see where you're coming from as well, where fireworks could happen on both sides, I think.
I feel like I've written these ratings. I've written down what I think, but it's very easy. It's probably going to change as we go through the list, because then you reevaluate based on the other options, because you can look at it from two ways. Carlos Sainz, for me, seems like the most logical, but like you're saying, is it the most logical for Carlos Sainz to go there, or is it most logical for Ferrari to hire Carlos Sainz, if you like? So yeah, it works in two ways.
Absolutely. Right, next one, which is slightly more left field and will promote, I'm sure, a lot of discussion in the comments. It's the man who's tried to get back on the grid for a little while now. It's Fernando Alonso has been kind of thrown into conversation a little bit here. Obviously, any vacancy, we think, is Alonso going to take it? Back to Ferrari? I mean, at Joachim Jepsen says, Alonso, no doubt. He has unfinished business there. But does Ferrari have unfinished business with him?
No, I cannot see this happening. These rumours came out when Nico Rosberg left and everyone was saying Fernando Alonso to Mercedes, and it wasn't going to happen then. It's not going to happen now. I love Fernando Alonso. He's a brilliant driver, big fan of him in Formula One. However, there's no denying that he can hurt teams with his relentless push for perfection. And what happened at McLaren, you just look at how well McLaren are doing now. He's left without the pressure of them trying to become world champions. They're just slowly making their way up again. And for me, Alonso, if Ferrari could not agree to Vettel's contract because they want Leclerc almost as a number one, or they're worried about the fireworks, the last thing they want to do is hire Fernando Alonso.
Fernando Alonso, yeah.
So I cannot see it
happening. Very good point. Let's give it a rating then. I think Fernando Alonso, how likely is it out of 10?
1 for me.
I'm going to go with 3.
I've gone for 1.
1, okay.
Absolutely not.
I still think 3, just purely from age and experience and things like that. But yeah, still very unlikely. Lewis Hamilton is the next on our list. The big dog, 6-time Formula One world champion, trying to get his 7th this year. At Longham says, Lewis will go to Ferrari. Same motivation as Seb when he left Red Bull. Needs a new challenge and prove to himself he can be a world champion in a different car. No other team good enough to provide competitive car, so there you go. I completely disagree. I don't think... Lewis has already proved that he can win a world championship in a different car. He went to Mercedes. Everybody told him not to. I don't say that Lewis isn't going to go to Ferrari at all, because there's still that option. But I don't think he would go because he wants another challenge. Especially when he's on the cusp of being the all-time greatest. I don't know. I just feel like Mercedes is quite cushy for him, and he gets everything he wants. So I don't know. What do you think, Tommy?
I tend to agree. I feel like if Hamilton maybe if this news had come out at the end of the season, and let's be honest, from the pace in testing, which we won't go into, it's very much seemed like Lewis Hamilton would be winning the title and maybe even won it by now. if that's even mathematically possible. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton, him winning the title this year, and then this news appearing, and Hamilton's got the 7 titles to match Schumi, maybe then he'd be considering going, look, I've proved myself as one of, if not the greatest. I've got 7 titles. I've got the most wins in F1 history. If he achieved that as well, and then gone, why not? However, now it seems very unlikely that he'd jump ship from Mercedes when Mercedes are clearly the most dominant team in F1, and they're entirely built around Lewis. Lewis would have everything to lose going to Ferrari, because if he went to Ferrari and Leclerc beat him, everyone would question his legacy, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So it seems ridiculous for him to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, we look at the fact that Ferrari seem to be laying the foundations for Leclerc to be a number 1. Why would Lewis Hamilton go in there? And again, fireworks. Ferrari don't want fireworks. They haven't had fireworks in the last 15, 20 years in the majority of that time because, Schumi and Rubens. And then you've got Vettel and Alonso and Massa. They always usually have a number 2 and a number 1. And for me, Leclerc, obviously, they have signed a 5-year contract with Leclerc, which is completely unheard of. It was 5, wasn't it, Tommy?
Yeah, huge contract.
Which is completely unheard of. They've put all of their eggs in one basket with Leclerc. They need a number 2. Lewis Hamilton, I don't think fits into this equation. I would love to see Lewis go there. Absolutely. It would be unreal. And if he did go there, beat Leclerc, he could be probably the undisputed one of... Well, I don't know, undisputed. It's never undisputed in F1, is it? No. But definitely seen as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. And again, it would be historical in the sense of, Lewis has made the jump when he's just trying to get 8 probably world titles at that point. But yeah, for me, I just don't see it happening. So for me, how likely? I think it's probably it's difficult. I think it's probably about as likely as Fernando Alonso in my eyes, maybe slightly more. Just because we don't know with Lewis, we never thought he was going to move to Mercedes, and he did. So I'm going to give it a 4. What do you think, Tommy?
I went for 3, so more likely than Alonso, but can't see it happening.
Yeah, fair. Now, this next suggestion I think is more likely than some people may actually think, and that's Antonio Giovinazzi. When he first came into Formula 1, he came in with a literal bang, didn't he? Crashing pretty much left, right and centre. But I feel like he's really come of age, especially towards the end of last season. He was beating Kimi, I think, a few times at least towards the end of the season, and genuinely showing a lot more consistency and pace. And actually, at Jack_Rose10 says Antonio Giovinazzi, he began at Sauber as Leclerc did. He was Ferrari's reserve driver. He's Italian. Could have a great bond with Charles on and off the track, especially if with them both speaking fluent Italian. I've seen them, I imagine he's supposed to say. Has led a race, albeit for a couple of laps. I don't think that's particularly relevant. But I think he is a perfect number 2. I think he would absolutely lap up the opportunity of driving for Ferrari, and I could possibly see that happening.
Me too. This is an odd one, and again, this is gonna. My opinion on this kind of keeps changing with who they'd want, and I imagine it's the same for you because obviously you mentioned why would they want someone so young,
yeah.
And now we're saying, well, Giovinazzi would be perfect. It's very strange, and now you've mentioned, I completely forgot. Well, I knew he was there for a long time, but I completely forgot they signed Leclerc for 5 years. It wasn't actually in the forefront of my mind. But now with that in mind, it almost shows that it's insane that Leclerc is only in his 2nd year. This year will be his 3rd year in Formula 1. And he is the team leader and he is the veteran, even though he's in his 3rd year in F1. It's crazy, but it does show that maybe the new era of Formula 1 is not so much about veterans. The fact that these drivers have come in, you just want the best driver. It doesn't matter how many years they've been in Formula 1. And the fact that Lewis Hamilton is arguably not in the frame, it is the fact that Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc are like the best drivers in F1, even though they're very young. So they're
Yeah,
almost
it's
like
almost
the
like
veterans, if you like.
football rather than Formula One, isn't it? In the sense that, football teams want to pick up young talent rather than the veterans so much. So, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's weird, as you say, because obviously earlier I was saying Carlos Sainz can't be, because it's a young lineup. But I think it's the fact it's the youth and what Carlos Sainz, I think, would bring to the team. The two just don't go together. Whereas Giovinazzi, he is young. There's no denying that. But I think that the way in which he'd fit into the team, in my head, just fits so much better, just purely on the fact that Leclerc is the number one. There's no denying that. The 5-year contract says that. So Giovinazzi, I don't think he'll say anything if Leclerc... I don't think probably Leclerc will have to get out of the way. Sorry, Giovinazzi will have to get out of the way too much anyway for Leclerc, just looking at the pace. But the only question over Antonio's head for me is he quick enough to be a number two at this stage in his career right now? Does he have enough consistency to bring the constructors home for Ferrari?
It's a strange one. I could see Giovinazzi becoming a Bottas, and is
that something you want to become?
Well, it's not really, but for me, I'd personally be quite disappointed if they hired Giovinazzi, but I agree with you that I can very much see it happening. Ferrari seem to rate him quite highly. I think he was their simulator driver as well. So maybe he has got quite a gift at car setup as well, and he's maybe a very knowledgeable driver as well. It does sound a bit savage, but he's one of those drivers that he's not so bad and he's not so good that you almost kind of forget about him.
Yeah.
But it does make
savage, but
it does make total sense because he is a Ferrari junior, and this goes against everything we've been talking about that Ferrari won't want an inexperienced lineup. For me, you look at Leclerc and Giovinazzi could be the Bottas to Leclerc, if you like. That he's not going to challenge him. If the Ferrari's quick, I think he'll be decent. He won't set the world on fire, but they don't want to set the world on fire. They want Leclerc to win the world championship. So,
and when you're looking at Antonio's current F1 career, he's going to take that 10 out of 10 next day delivery. Thank you so much. I'm there. There's absolutely no hesitation from his side of things because, he was very much on the skirts of Formula One and then he managed to secure the drive. I think for him, it gives him the amazing platform in which he'll have a great car. And if he does have this, locked potential that Ferrari have seen and he hasn't really shown in F1 yet, that's the platform to do it on, isn't it? The thing is with like number two drivers, they still have the same car almost. I know that some F1 teams will prefer someone over another in terms of new front wings and whatnot. Mark Webber and Vettel at Silverstone is a great example of that. But they still have the platform. They still can become a number one if they're good enough, right?
Exactly, but I think Giovinazzi does, like you're saying about would Giovinazzi want to be a Bottas, it's almost like it's not really the question of does he want to be a Bottas, it's do you want to be an Alfa Romeo or do you want to be a Ferrari driver? And I'm sure he would very much say yes.
Yes.
Because he might pick up the odd win, but he doesn't seem like the kind of driver that would go absolutely crazy and be unbelievable and beat Leclerc and challenge him. He just would be a solid driver to partner him. So maybe that's why I'm sure a lot
of you guys listening or watching will be saying that we're contradicting ourselves. But as you say, Tommy, and as you've mentioned already, just to reiterate, we are kind of working this with you as well. And it is quite interesting how our opinions are changing as we bring in another driver into the equation and maybe bring up a few things.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult. And at the end of the day, we're doing this podcast as fans ourselves and no one knows. So at the end of the day, we're just speculating and going through your opinions and giving our own opinions.
Exactly. It's just a bit of fun. We're just having a speculation. I'm sure a lot of you guys will be getting involved in the comments as well. So look forward to reading them. Next, actually, funnily enough, it's almost like we scripted
likelihood of Giovinazzi first.
Oh yeah, sorry. Likelihood of Giovinazzi. I thought about it in my head. I was like, cool, and then just moved on. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't say it out loud. I think
he's an 8 for me. I'd say 2 out of 10 want it to happen because I think I know it sounds really savage, but if he went, it wouldn't be exciting. And also the thing that makes this so exciting is that once whoever moves to Ferrari, it's going to kickstart absolute chaos in the driver market. Whereas I think Giovinazzi, if he did move, it would just be a very straight swap, and then Alpha just get someone like
Hulkenberg
Schwartzman or something, or promote another Ferrari driver. Mick Schumacher, maybe.
Yeah. Mick Schumacher, maybe. Oh, spicy. Speaking of number 2 drivers and Bottas, he is the next on our list. We'll run through a few fan comments first. Vaquero70 says, Bottas, he has no contract after 2020. He is the perfect second driver. He is passive and he can be competitive. He would share info from Mercedes to Ferrari. He will not fight Leclerc, only will help him. And at Gagusi says, Bottas, Russell moves to Mercedes in 2021. I cannot see Bottas going to Ferrari, personally. It's weird.
It's so difficult.
he fits the bill of being older, experienced.
Yep. Number 2
has
driver.
Proven experience of being a number 2 driver, and yet I can't see Ferrari taking him.
It's mad, isn't it? This is one of the most difficult things we've done, because a lot of other drivers, a driver moves and you go, oh, well, this guy's in the driver academy, so he's just going to pop up. But Ferrari, it's huge for Ferrari when a place appears. So that's what makes it so difficult. And the fact, I completely agree that Bottas is one of those drivers, fits the bill. He's experienced. He's had experience in a top team as well. But I just can't see it. I just can't see it happening, because
he's literally a proven race winner as well.
Yeah.
And yet I cannot see Bottas going from Mercedes to Ferrari.
Maybe Mercedes
I'm trying
wouldn't
to
want
work
him
through my head why.
Yeah, I think Mercedes maybe wouldn't want him to go if Hamilton sticks around for another couple of years, because I think as soon as Hamilton goes, that's when they get Russell for me. I can't see Russell and Hamilton being teammates.
Yeah, because again, it doesn't go really down the line of, again, Hamilton, Bottas, number 2 driver. It would be. I mean, I'd love to see it. Hamilton versus Russell. Yeah, just a complete young'un on the grid who's won everything pretty much up against the old guard. That would be amazing. But yeah, I just can't see Hamilton allowing that, or Mercedes, to be honest. And again, that kind of reiterates why we think that Hamilton won't go to Ferrari, because it's that same sort of thing with Leclerc, and he'd have a hell of a lot to lose. Yeah, and not much to gain. So. Anything else to add on Bottas, Tommy? It's difficult, really. I mean, we've kind of covered what he is, and yet neither of us think he'll go. Yeah, I think he's probably similar to a Lewis Hamilton in me, that I wouldn't count it out completely, but I can't see it happening. So I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. 4 out of 10, I'd say as well. And yet people are probably going to be wondering, why do you think this, guys? Why? I'm trying to think of it like a perfectly logical reason as to why everything we've just said about it's just weird. It's such a weird one, yeah. Like you say, Ferrari, it's so different because Formula One is changing so much, and Ferrari is changing as well. So we obviously talk about, would Danny Rick fit Ferrari's ethos and all that kind of stuff, and they need an experienced driver, but maybe the fact that Ferrari sort of bit the bullet and hired Leclerc very early, you could argue learnt their mistakes from not hiring maybe Jules Bianchi earlier, promoting him earlier, and getting Leclerc in the car when he was young and very, very quick and just incredible, basically. And he's very much proved that he deserves to be there. And maybe that's kick-started a change in Ferrari, that they go, actually, this works, hiring young drivers. We will see. So for me, Bottas on paper is probably the perfect candidate, and yet he's one of the lowest rated. Yeah. So logic. Strange one. And finally, on the lineup for Ferrari, it's probably it's going to be the highest rating for everybody. I think it's Matt Gallagher. Who's that? Sorry, who's Matt Gallagher? Oh, he's one of the best upcoming new guys on the scene. He's 27, actually, so he's a little bit late to the Formula One game. He has driven an F1 car. Oh, okay. So he has got experience, similar to the levels of Bottas, it has to be said, in terms of F1 experience. And at OMG Harry Ellis says, I've heard rumours that a rookie called Matthew Gallagher is potentially their next driver. Never ruled. I mean, on a level, if if I even sat in a Ferrari Formula One car, I would just disintegrate. So it's probably not a good idea if I became their next driver. But I'd be a great number 2.
Exactly. Can we just talk about the absolutely hilarious timing, which we'll obviously go into and have a little chat about, that you obviously did the race with Charles Leclerc, not the GP on the F1 game. And Leclerc said, Matt Gallagher to Ferrari confirmed, literally 3 days before Vettel was dropped. Well, they agreed to not continue with him. So crazy.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? It's almost like Leclerc knew about this news, and it's kind of almost a slip of the tongue. Not something that obviously let any news out, but it's probably in his head. I imagine he's probably known before then, hasn't he, that this is happening. So
maybe, yeah. It's hard to know.
Imagine,
it's hard to know.
Who knows?
Yeah,
but
you do hear
he's number 1 in the team now, so he's probably got all the decisions on speed dial.
True.
But yeah, so not the GP. That was the Veloce esports event. They invited me to race, which was pretty fun. And obviously, as you say, to be teammates with Charles Leclerc, which was very exciting. We're going to be releasing a video on that on Friday, hopefully. So fingers crossed that will get released then. But yeah, it was amazing. It was just such a cool event. If you managed to watch it, it was lots of F1 drivers and content creators and personalities and me just to race after many years of not racing. And my goodness me, I was sweating buckets because I wore my WTF1 race suit.
Yeah, great idea that.
Didn't I, Tommy?
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, I actually tweeted that out, not thinking I was going to, because I said 2,500 likes. The race started in less than an hour. And I was like, not a chance. Then Lando quote retweeted it and said, go like this comment or go like this tweet. And it now has 11,000 likes.
Classic.
So I then had to, as soon as I saw that, I had to run to my car to get my race suit because I didn't have it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was it was an enjoyable race to watch as well. And it was funny watching your Twitch stream, and there were moments where you couldn't sort of hide how surreal it was, where you were chatting with Charles about trying to get back through the pack, and I think you said at a few points you were like, this is very surreal to be saying this.
Yeah, I remember at one point I slipstreamed past Latifi and was like, not today, Nicholas. And then like 3 corners later I just went, why did I just say that to an F1 driver? So yeah, that was a very cool event. Maybe I'll get to do another one in the future. I hope so, because I really enjoyed it, and it seems like everybody did as well. So stay tuned for the video. Right, moving on now to, obviously, Vettel is leaving, but where's he going to go? What's he going to do with his life?
Yeah.
So firstly, we've got McLaren. Jeep Deep says Carlos Sainz to Ferrari and Seb will go to McLaren. For me, as we go through, obviously, these options, I'm just going to say it out loud. I think he's going to retire.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay.
But what do you think, Tommy?
I thought the McLaren option was most likely at first, because I can see McLaren wanting the experience to help bring them up the grid, and Vettel seems like the kind of person that's very good at developing a car as well, which would obviously help McLaren. However, now I've read a little bit more into it, and we'll go into this later, there is another option which I can see happening.
Okay, all right. So McLaren, fair. I mean, yeah, obviously it depends who goes where and what seat opens up. So it really does depend on what we have discussed in this first part of the podcast. But yeah, McLaren, I don't know. For me, I can't see him going anywhere other than retiring out of Formula One personally, just purely from the fact that he's always kind of said that he doesn't want to be part of Formula One until he's a fossil. I think that he's always been a family man, and he's got his head screwed on in terms of Formula One is not everything to him, especially he's a 4-time Formula One world champion. He's achieved more than he probably ever dreamed of. So for me, if he was like, he's been at Red Bull, then he went to Ferrari. I know Ferrari have obviously struggled a little bit with him, but he's still been near the front. I can't see him. Yeah, I don't know. It's this one's even more speculation for me than who will take the Ferrari seat personally. But right, let's look to Red Bull.
No.
I think he's done that chapter of his life, hasn't he?
However much Christian Horner and Helmut Marko still have a big soft spot for him, I cannot see it.
Him to go up against Verstappen?
Yeah. Vettel can't agree to terms with Ferrari because of Leclerc. Let's go join Max Verstappen. Great logic there.
That, if you want fireworks, that would be the 5th of November every single race weekend, wouldn't it? It'd just be glorious. It would be glorious to watch. Please make it happen. That'd be amazing.
This one, however,
but I don't think
this one I'm on board with now. This next one.
This is the one. And that would mean Albon would then go to Ferrari, and at Shra1AN says might be unlikely, but hear me out. Alex Albon replaces Vettel. Alex's first word was Ferrari. Every time comes up in his interview. He and Charles there's number 2. He and Charles are best buddies, evident recently on streaming, also from GP3 series. And 3, would not rock the boat and is a solid driver.
My first word was Mercedes, so I think I should be the Mercedes driver. Just throwing that out there.
Not after me seeing you on iRacing the other day. I think that's very far-fetched.
Very far-fetched.
Imagine that. That'd be an amazing career for Alex Albon, who it was going to race in Formula E, then gets Toro Rosso, then goes to flipping Red Bull, and then goes to Ferrari.
They should...
I want that to happen now.
It'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it? But no, I cannot see Vettel going back to Red Bull at all.
No, me neither. So that's not going to happen. Aston Martin.
Yes, this is the one.
So at J Walking Josh says Seb to Aston Martin with lots of money being pumped into the team. And at Guru Goodley says Toto made €37 million investment in Aston Martin. My guess is Seb is ready to work there with Toto, who might move there as well. Spicy. You reckon?
I can see this happening. Absolutely. I can see Toto wanting a new challenge as well. And Aston Martin, the fact that he's pumped so much money into it, I know he's very much saying in the press, no, I'm not leaving Mercedes and stuff, but I could see it happening, that Seb and Toto trying to turn Aston Martin into this super team, and then obviously Vettel going there. They've got a proven world champion, number 1 driver, because Stroll's not going to be challenging him, let's be honest, and it's true. And yeah,
I'd love to see if he did. Imagine that. He goes there and Stroll's better than him, and then everything just gets thrown under the table.
Yeah, that would hurt his legacy a lot. If people were already unfairly questioning it after his Ferrari stint, if he got beaten by Stroll...
That's the thing, though. It's like, well, Stroll, if Daddy's in charge, you never know, do you? You never know. He might at least get equal equipment and then... do some amazing drives. Who knows? But I can see Stroll very much being a number 2 in that team. But I guess you then, because obviously the jigsaw is changing all the time. Then if Toto goes, that then for me ups Lewis Hamilton's rating slightly.
Yeah, and this is like my next point, that whatever happens is going to be insane, and this is why we keep saying it's always changing. Because when I go, oh, Seb moving to Aston Martin would make total sense, and Toto going there, you'd go, oh, well, that leaves Perez free. So where would Perez go? Maybe Perez would go to Ferrari, and we've not even mentioned him.
Perez,
and then
Perez is a good shout. Yeah. Why is that not on the sheet?
And then you've got Toto leaving. So then, if Toto leaves, does Lewis go, oh well, I'm a little worried that Toto's not there now. Our Mercedes going to pull out of the sport. Let's go to Ferrari. It's just going to be absolutely crazy. As soon as the first piece of the puzzle goes, it's just going to be chaos.
It's all gonna change. But yeah, for me, okay. So Vettel goes to Aston Martin.
Sergio Perez.
I could see Perez go to Ferrari. He's experienced. He's been linked with Ferrari before.
Yeah.
Has he not?
Yeah, but he was a Ferrari junior back in the day. He is very experienced. He's proven himself. I guess the only thing that would hurt him is the fact that he went to McLaren and didn't maybe perform, but the car wasn't great that year.
It was so early into his career as well, wasn't it? It was too early for him, and we've seen people make good comebacks, and Perez has always been an amazing podium finisher in a midfield team. So wow, that is spicy.
Perez. So we've done this whole thing, not said Perez, and now we're like, Perez, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, so now for me, because obviously you've explained how, if that does happen and Toto moves with Vettel, then it's a pretty simple swap, I think, really.
There you go.
I think Giovinazzi and Perez are the top 2 for me.
So what's your rating for Perez out of 10?
Perez, I think Perez is an 8.
Wow, really?
But that's obviously dependent on where Vettel goes. So it's... Yeah, it's a very difficult rating
like
game, isn't it? But it's fun.
What's the guy in the American TV show? He's got the conspiracy theory board, and it's like everything's linked together. It's I don't know his name, but that GIF, yeah, would be like that, saying like if Seb goes here, and then Perez goes here, and then Stroll goes here, and then it's just everything.
Look, it's good fun, isn't it? I know some people will probably be like, "Wow, this is all speculation," but of course, that's the whole point of silly season. That's the whole point. We've got some F1 news. How exciting is this? Embrace it, love it.
We finally got some F1 news. We're gonna milk it. Sorry, guys.
We're going to milk it till it's dry. But that's the whole point. Everybody needs a bit of F1 news and a bit of F1 speculation, and Vettel has done us proud.
This is the news we've wanted for, not the news that Vettel's leaving, but the news, like some spicy news to get the kind of everyone's love of Formula One and why we love the sport and why we love talking about it. And this has brought it right back, hasn't it? So.
Exactly. Nice and juicy, just like we like it. Just like we like it, just like we love it, whatever. Either way, let us know in the comment section below where you think Vettel is going to go and who you think is going to replace him at Ferrari. I'm sure there will be lots of arguments. Just make sure you keep it nice. Yeah. Also, make sure that you like, subscribe, rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, and give us a solid 5 stars or just an upvote if you're watching on YouTube. And that is it. Tommy, anything else to add before we go?
Perez to Ferrari confirmed. No, I don't know. Let's find out.
Gallagher to Ferrari confirmed.
We're probably going to check our phone after this and there'll be an announcement. So let's
probably. Knowing our luck anyway.
Let's go.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening or watching and we'll see you hopefully for another WTF1 podcast where we have even more news and more excitement. Yay! Right, I'm going to wave to you, Tommy. Bye, Tommy.
Bye.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. When are you getting a haircut?
Oh, God, I don't know. Whenever this is all over.
I'm getting a haircut after this.
To be fair, I could actually become Giovinazzi by the end of this, and therefore I could then get a Ferrari drive. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.